Are you on this idea that bugs provide good protein and that's more sustainable than any other food in the world? That is the future of the world's
What's that question?
Food source.
I think we didn't talk about. We sort of talked about this, but we talked about it off-air conversation.
Yes.
But we never got each other's opinions.
No, we didn't.
But we talked about who brought this up. Like, why was this even a conversation?
Yeah, it's the World Economic Forum.
Okay.
I believe.
Okay.
I feel like that sounds right.
Something forum, you put it? You're fine.
You walk up to somewhere with the clipboard, you're naturally, he's a critic, he's studious, he's something.
Yeah.
You bring up a forum, they're credible.
They are very credible.
It's a .org kind of affiliation.
You never trust the link unless it's .org or .gov.
Right. So,
which was so good when that happens.
How lame was that to you that we can never include Wikipedia in like high school or middle school as like one of our sources at the end because they weren't credible enough?
Yeah.
It's always the first thing that pops up in the search engine.
That's where my knowledge comes from.
That's
Wikipedia,
YouTube, and then gamer chat. Yeah, WikiHow.
Honestly, though, Reddit actually is a good one too.
Reddit's fantastic.
Reddit's a good one because you can get people's opinions that is kind of not censored like other places or sites. So that's a good one too, actually.
I think so.
I always like, if I'm looking up something, Wikipedia, but then sometimes in the search bar I'll throw Reddit afterwards just to kind of get like more of the masses perspective or more of a uncensored perspective.
Yeah.
Not to digress, but
no, you're
recommend Reddit.
I recommend it. I recommend .orgs or
.govs
and forums.
.us.
So it's the .us underrated.
Oh, super underrated.
World Economic Forum. They came out. Now this is actually a little bit older, but it's something I've always wanted your opinion on.
Yeah.
And then you had celebrities like Robert Downey Jr., Nicole Kidman. They did these videos for World Economic Forum where they're eating bugs using like chopsticks.
It's crazy.
And they're like, ooh, the fried cricket. And they're like delicious as they're eating it and they're crunching it. And they claim that, other civilizations have been doing this for not just hundreds of years, but thousands of years.
Yeah.
And, are we above it, to be able to not do the same? And additionally, I would have never thought something like sushi would take off. I feel like sushi is like, not only is it maybe a little bit more expensive, but I feel like it's a luxury food. But really, it's uncooked fish.
It's not too bad, yeah.
So that's, in a way, I feel like you're getting less than what you're actually paying for. You're not getting something that's cooked or seasoned or anything.
Right.
But I guess the way it's prepared, it looks pretty. So I also guess I never would think that in the same way that raw fish would be so popular, bugs would be. And at least bugs are cooked.
True.
But the way that I've always come to know bugs is when they're frozen in those like suckers. You know what I'm talking about?
Always at like a zoo, at a gift shop or something.
It is the gift shop. What's the word? It's called a gag gift?
Yeah, it's the go-to gift shop.
It's the go-to gag gift from a gift shop.
Whoa!
That and a shark tooth necklace.
This place is quirky.
Wow, this guy's edgy.
Yeah, it's always like the scorpion or like a tiny scorpion or an ant or something, and
right, yeah.
It's actually very interesting because I guess they have a point where other civilizations throughout history have done it. I think it's probably more of a cultural thing than anything. In South America, I know that ants are a really big one. Like not everybody, but they kind of treat it like popcorn almost, like roasted ants. Especially like in the Amazon, they're like big ants.
Yeah.
We've all stumbled into those really weird stores that are just different. I think there's always one that I go to where you and I growing up in a certain area that we lived in, there's this gum shop that had all these different flavors, and the way that the gum was packaged, like these little pellets in this little like tube and stuff like that. So there's always a weird store somewhere. And I stumbled upon one of those weird stores. I think I was on a road trip out to New York, and we walk in, and it was one of those like super healthy natural places. And one of the aisles had bags of chips, but not just any bag of chip. I think it was cricket protein tortilla chips.
Mm-hmm.
So it was one of those where it was like the chips are made from crickets, and you're like, so weird.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you got to try it. It was actually pretty good.
Dude, you tried these?
Oh yeah, it was actually pretty good.
That's
so when
awesome.
you were bringing up how like not weird it was, but it was like, I mean, Nicole Kidman. We have our opinions on her, but I was like, honestly though, it's not that bad. It's not too bad. And then if you think about it, bro, you could just get like a factory-sized room. Make sure it's away and secluded from everybody. Just fill it with crickets. Like, they're bugs, right? They're bugs. Like, you can't do anything inhumane to them, in my opinion. Like, you can to animals, but like, if they're just bugs.
Yeah. Here's a really good example, right? Batman, what is his code?
What's his like moral?
Yeah.
So he doesn't want to kill.
He doesn't kill, right? Okay. So, but like in any version of the animated content, or even like the Justice League, he will kill parademons because they're like alien demon things.
Fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to him, they're not like real people. I guess I can get behind that idea. So yeah, the same people that maybe don't want you killing this cow because its name's Betsy, and look how cute it is, and it's like it's the mother of 5, and you know,
PETA always humanizing,
right? Just simply grazing the grass. I don't feel like there's that many people. If you were to take your boot and you were to squish a baby cow, so people be like, bro,
yeah, that's not cool.
I kill a cow in Minecraft. People are like, bro.
Mm-hmm.
But if I squish an ant, I feel like people are like, served them right.
Right?
Should have been walking by you.
If an ant crawled right across our table here, I mean, what's your natural reaction? You take your shoe off and just slap it.
Yeah, dude, I'd be like those sneaker cleaners at the mall. And I'd be like, hey, bro. And I would just dive and, you know.
Just natural instinct.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I guess we hate bugs.
Yeah,
very much, yeah. But then it's like, I don't know how we would react if it was normalized. Like, dude, grasshoppers over crickets.
Yeah.
It's like people talking about chicken over turkey.
Right.
You know? I hope that, that'd be kind of weird.
Well, last podcast we were talking about things that have this notion to them. You said up and down, let's do it. Ready?
Yeah. Connotation, yeah.
Yeah, gross.
Up or down? Down.
Down. Okay. Amazing.
Up.
Beautiful.
Up.
Nasty.
Down.
Okay.
Yeah, easy.
I feel like it's the same thing with bugs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I were to be with my mom, I love my mom.
Yeah.
You know, I think this is great. But if she's driving and instead of eating some McDonald's, all of a sudden she has a cricket burger, I'm gonna get a little road sick. Just because it has that connotation of just like bugs are a little gross, perhaps. Right. I think it comes from a childhood fear. I don't know who as a kid is afraid of a cow or a chicken.
Yeah.
Or
unless like some weird thing happened.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah. You were forced to squeeze the udders.
That would be terrifying.
That would be
terrifying. You were touching udder?
Yeah, dude. I'd be touching udders.
Like the school field trip?
It was a school field trip. Okay. Yeah.
It was one of those where like,
everybody else is
right.
Everybody else is doing it, but this ain't right.
I see these in the movies, but this just doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel right.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Oh, it's interesting too, though, because like for you, and I wouldn't like blame the culture that we live in or the society, but yeah, bugs are gross to us, and it's kind of natural instinct too, because if you're along the equator, mosquitoes are such a problem.
Yeah.
They thrive in that environment. The issue with them is that they carry all these diseases, AIDS, HIVs, Zika, whatever. So many other diseases too. So naturally, if a mosquito lands on you, whether you know it's a mosquito or not, you're going to slap it. Yeah. You know, one, it hurts, but two, it's like your body knows, hey, this thing could probably kill me indirectly.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I think for all of us, we know that some bugs are bad, but I feel like in a lot of cultures, maybe like ants aren't perceived as gross compared to us. If I see an ant, that's nasty. If I see an ant in my cabinet, like to me, that's too far.
Insects are the world's biggest home invaders.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to give them some payback and just like fry them and like put them in a pot of boiling water and make myself some cricket protein. And I kind of want to give some sort of payback.
Yeah.
You know, curse you for rummaging through my snacks in my closet.
Yeah,
you know,
you. That's not yours. You didn't pay for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Living rent free.
They're
in my
the biggest
closet.
squatters.
They are the biggest squatters.
Yeah.
They're the biggest home invaders.
Invaders, squatters.
They terrify children.
They do. And adults.
And adults. There's probably one other thing.
Well, they're the snotty preschoolers of the animal kingdom in terms of.
Wow, that's deep.
You know, if you babysit a little kid and he's sick, you're 100% going to get sick too.
Yes.
So a bug is the same thing. It's going to get you sick.
Same thing. So that's 5 reasons why I kind of want to eat some bugs for some payback.
Payback, yeah.
But at the same time, you know, I think a pretty big narrative nowadays is like the media plays into how we think.
Sure.
And let's look back at like classic examples of clickbait. These top 10 bugs look like aliens.
Yeah.
You know, like you've seen it. It's like a millipede that has like 1,000 legs on it.
Was I with you when I showed you that picture of like, I guess this is technically what an ant looks like under the microscope?
And it was terrifying.
That was terrifying.
That was
that's alien-like. That's terrifying.
That is alien-like. And then like similar. Thanks for saying that to me. That was interesting.
Yeah.
You know, very similarly, there's I remember like those books that would always be in the elementary schools. Where it's like those gross out books, and you want to look like such a scholar by reading it. They're like, "You're reading that," and it's like it's such a good way to catch attention.
Yeah,
you know. And it's like 20 insects that'll ruin your life. That'll wipe out mankind.
That'll steal your wife.
20 insects that you'll walk home to in bed with.
Bro, you know them praying mantises.
Dude, okay.
They're up to something, bro. They doing this thing, and then they like.
They really.
Yeah. Screenshot that.
Yeah, thumbnail right here.
Thumbnail right there.
Yeah. Little praying mantis action ready for the thumbnail. Look like the emperor.
Yeah, but sometimes they can fly too.
That is pretty terrifying.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, because that's what I am so afraid of about grasshoppers. They're so unpredictable. You can see one like all the way down the driveway, and with just in one leap, it can land all the way to. And so praying mantises, for whatever reason, I actually enjoy, but it's the same thing but bigger. And I don't know why I've never been so freaked out by them.
There's like a difference. I mean, it's like
they're less likely to fly. They prefer not to, which is cool.
Well, it's also like, when's the last time you've seen a praying mantis? It is a day maker when you see a praying mantis.
Yeah, I just remember it used to be that way. Like when you see a cardinal, now you see them everywhere. At least in the state of Ohio where we live.
Isn't that right? I feel like that too.
Yeah,
like,
but even though we see them everywhere, we're always like, "Wow, a cardinal!"
Yeah.
Jeez, the leaves are turning again. Wow. Yeah.
It's like that in bald eagles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. But then like crickets here, crickets there, you see them everywhere. You see Dr. Seuss.
What bug do you think would taste the best? If you were a betting man, you're going out on a limb here. You go to the Benihanas of the insect version. Mm-hmm. What is? Well, actually, let's do this. What is like? I feel like if you go to Outback, if you go to a nice restaurant,
sure.
Olive Garden, I always feel like the most expensive option is always some sort of steak or like some sort of salmon. All right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess on both halves, steak is like the usual more expensive one. Meat, I know there's other kinds of meat that you can get that are more expensive. And then for fish, they don't really actually have a lot of options, but typically the most expensive one is salmon. What is the cheapest one? What's the chicken of insects?
Sure.
Probably ants, but we'll see, or crickets. And then what is like the salmon, like the more expensive one? We're not getting super exotic because like
when you go and take someone out to celebrate, hey, congratulations on the promotion. You take them out for steak.
Take them out for stink bugs.
Yeah, bro, stink bugs. Hey, congrats. Dang, honestly, I feel like the pigs of the insect world
Let's do this.
are flies.
Whoa, that's the bacon?
So that's like the bacon. It's like the ham, the pork, because like at least for me, I associate pigs to being gross. I know in the Muslim culture, like pigs, you don't eat pigs because they dwell in the mud and like they're. I mean, honestly, it's like you are what you eat, and ultimately, you're eating. If you're eating a pig, you're eating what they eat, and you're eating what they are living in. So I can get it. I can get behind that.
Yeah.
Flies are like that too. Flies are, dude. I cannot even. I don't even want to fathom where a fly has been by the time I'm slapping it and killing it. Like it's probably been in the nastiest places. It's probably been in the trash can. It's probably at the neighbor's. The neighbor forgot to pick up their dog poop. He's probably over there. He's probably in the bathroom. By the time you kill a fly, imagine all the places it's been.
I am convinced. I was at first I was like, that's interesting. Yeah. I'm convinced.
Okay, word.
Yeah.
So I mean, honestly though, I feel like flies would be kind of crunchy, especially like bigger ones. Like I don't feel like they'd be that bad tasting, but it kind of, you know.
What are the big ones called? They're called horse flies.
Horse flies.
Okay.
And that actually reminds me of something.
It's real loud.
Horseflies and they hurt.
Yeah.
Do you remember that picture of my swollen hand? Did I show you that?
Were you in Colombia?
No. Well, I did get some serious bug bites in Colombia.
Yeah.
No, it was just this past summer, bro. I was just chilling outside with my family. I got bit by a fly. I didn't think of it. The next day, my hand. I have to show you a picture.
Jeez.
This hand right here was swollen. Like, no knuckles, nothing. I think it was. I ended up looking it up. It was a deer fly.
Okay.
So it's kind of like I don't know. There's so many different flies.
Yeah.
I do think, I'm not going to say this is the stake, but every 17 years, a certain bug, at least for us here, crawls out of the ground, causes this commotion, takes over entire cities, and people will actually get them and grill them.
Yes.
And I've heard they're actually pretty good. Yeah. And those bugs are cicadas. I'm not going to say that's a steak, but that's actually a bug I would really want to try, a cicada. Because it's like a delicacy, because it comes every 17 years.
Every 17 years. And it's like, I wonder if there's ways, you can like freeze bread and things like that, make bread almost be like eternal.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if you can do the same thing with the cicada. Because it is 17 years, but they're so plentiful.
Yeah.
I bet you, too, how you have like potato skins.
Yeah.
You take the skin of the potato and you load it. I bet you they take the shells, the cicada shells.
Oh, I'm sure.
And I bet you can do some cool things with those.
That's right, because don't they? I forgot about that. They you can see them on trees. Like they'll climb out of their shell.
And they go up and then they transform up there.
That's cool.
The flying version. That. I bet you they can make a protein just out of the wings because those wings are huge.
Yeah.
Like there's so many options. So for me personally, I think the bug thing isn't such a bad idea. I can personally get behind it. I just think, like you were saying, you just got that great promotion.
Yeah.
Let's take you downtown and get some fried stink bug.
Right.
Or some cicada. Mm-hmm. You know, every 17 years, right? Yeah.
Every 17 years. It's big.
It's huge. That is an interesting thing to be like, is that really worth celebrating? You would have to change the narrative so much to make bugs not gross in order to make this work.
Yeah.
Similarly, I feel like everybody should already be on electric cars, but you have to change the narrative so much to get us just to the point we're at now, when there's still way more oil-based cars gas cars than electric, and it really does. You have to just change your thinking about everything.
I think that's a really good point. Well, it's like let's go back 10 years. And this is the first time I've ever seen this. I'm at your house, we open up the fridge, and there's soy milk.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is that? And I remember you had regular soy milk, and then you had chocolate soy milk. And I was like, I'll try this. I'll try the chocolate soy milk. It was one of the best things ever. But to me, I was like, what's that? I want just cow's milk.
Right.
Now here we go. 10 years from now, we have every different kind of soy milk. We have almond milk. We have oat milk.
Oat milk.
I think there's one other kind of milk that they have going on now. Cashew milk.
There is cashew.
That one's really good.
I've not tried that one yet.
And so all of a sudden, over that span of 10 years, this notion of alternative milk essentially has just grown, and now you have Starbucks making oat milk lattes instead of regular milk, and you have all these cashew milk ice cream.
Yeah.
And it's just exploded. Now it's dipped into the actual market share for milk. And the same thing with Beyond Meat or the Impossible Burger.
Yes.
Like to me, it was such a foreign concept like 5 years ago of why are you making something that looks like meat, tastes like meat, but it's not meat?
It's not me.
And so but it's growing. So I mean, maybe we could do that with bugs.
Maybe. I think fish is like the only thing I can think of where there isn't like an alternative.
Yeah.
I don't think there's like synthetic fish
Yeah,
or anything. I don't even know if I even want to try
that.
that.
Sounds gross. Who knows? I mean, who knows?
Maybe some people think tuna isn't real fish. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's like
something.
But yeah, which we love that stuff. But
I think the one more thing to add to that is just economies of scale. I feel like if they could mass produce cricket protein and make it cheaper, and then they proved some scientific, it's actually healthier than, or it's better on your liver or something. You always have to do something like that to kind of make people believe in it. If they could do that and make cricket protein cheaper, imagine like going to the gym and scooping it and it's chocolate flavored cricket protein, but it's cheaper. I would feel much better putting that in my body because it's cheaper.
Yeah. And right now, if you even try these cricket protein chips, they wanted to roll out, really make this big push, World Economic Forum like they've been. Honestly, now's the time because you have the same people that are bitching about like the prices of groceries keep going up. So if you can usher it in to, like you said, to have it be cheaper, because I think it absolutely would. We've been at Pet Supplies Plus and all these stores. We go and get crickets or mealworms.
Yeah.
Mealworms is another one too. There's mealworm protein.
That's a great point. Yeah.
You go there and you get like these crickets and stuff for your frogs. We had frogs and everything. Or
lizards.
Mealworms, and like I remember they just had these barrels of just like crickets, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's tons in there.
Yeah.
And they seem to be super plentiful. They probably can breed super quickly. They're asexual, right?
I have no idea. Probably.
I feel like most insects are
I don't know how they do their thing.
I feel like they just lay eggs. Like it's just like
I
think that's what the insects do. I don't think they mate. I really don't think so. Maybe only certain ones. So like
probably not much to it anyway.
Okay. So I was at the Columbus Zoo this weekend.
Okay. Yeah.
We saw these monkeys. Have you ever heard of bonobos?
I have heard of them, but do they look like chimps or no?
Well, yes, in the sense that it's what the humans, I was reading about them, this is what the humans are most closely tied to in
chimp.
The animal kingdom.
Okay.
Yep. So they are, in many ways, I was looking at them and it was just like, that's awesome in many ways.
Isn't it fascinating?
It's, as I grow older, chimps, I just come to the realization that like, I think it's one of the animals I have the most fascination in.
Yeah.
Because it's like seeing your cousin.
It's weird.
But it's like that person who's also not your cousin, but like you're somehow related.
It's so
and I'm not saying we're related to them. I'm not. I'm just, it's like that there's so many similarities. That's actually going to tie into my next question. But, so anyways, I'm at the zoo. I was with my mom. We were celebrating some nice Halloween weekend. Which, happy Halloween to you, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, we record these in a week in advance, so today is Monday the 31st, so Halloween.
Crazy.
And, it was super cute. It was Boo at the zoo. She had all the kids in their Halloween costumes and everything. And, well, with that, you also have a lot of kids, and these bonobos were feeling particularly loving.
Oh, okay.
There were 4 bonobos. There were 2 males, 2 females. And these 2 males, they had, they're not messing with the big piece. I was shocked because like they were pretty, like they are pretty big.
They're pretty big.
But they're not. I don't know how blessed they are. It's interesting. And anyways, about every 30 seconds, they're up on the monkey bars. They're swinging from monkey bar to monkey bar, and all of a sudden, one of them's just laying up on the monkey bars, literally like laying on top of them. And, homeboy, his name was Billy the Bonobo.
Oh, okay.
He slings through, and then he started doing his thing.
Screenshot that.
Without going into too much detail, Billy laid his bonobo I believe her name was Cindy was the other one.
So Billy and Cindy.
And 15 seconds.
That's it.
And then he's done. Swings on the monkey bars, sits on top of the monkey bars, pees, goes and gets food, comes back again.
Wow.
15 seconds.
Really?
And it was just this rotation of just, hey,
what's up?
Hey, what's up?
Short-term memory here.
Short-term, yeah, they were a bunch of Dory,
Yep.
A bunch of sleeper
And all
agents.
these little kids are probably like...
They had no idea. And, like, I could not stop laughing. My mom, you know. So.
That's so funny. Did you take a video?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're kidding me?
Yeah.
I'll show this to you.
Yeah, we gotta see that.
Oh, my God.
Circle of life.
Circle of life.
Times every 15 seconds.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On repeat.
Okay, so we were talking about aliens. Or no, we weren't. We
have before though.
I just gave it away. We were talking about insects. And you said how alien-like are they? You know, I was also saying that too. And then I was talking about these chimps. That's like they look like us, but it's also not us.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the aliens would look like? Would they look just like you and me? Would they look almost like a chimpanzee? I would love to see a sci-fi movie where they do almost look like chimps, but they never do.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, if that's what the closest thing that looks like us to here on Earth, they could, you know. That could be interesting. Or maybe it's a sci-fi movie. Maybe it's the xenomorphs from Aliens, but that's a very, like, horrific version of what aliens would look like. Or maybe it's something as simple as Greedo from Star Wars. Has there ever been anything you've thought about?
So what do aliens look like?
Yeah, like if you were a betting man here in Vegas,
sure.
What has there been a form of media be like, okay, I watched that movie and like I could see them looking like that? Or even if it's not for a movie, do you think they'd look just like you and me? Taller?
It's a great question.
Like what would they be?
That's a great question. You can't go wrong with that answer. I'm sure some people have their beliefs and have spent hours and hours upon hours thinking about this. It could go anyway.
And also, where does the stereotype come from that
They're
they're like green
with big eyes
or like gray with the big eyes? Like,
yeah.
Where and that like weird like balloon shit? That
yes.
Where does that come from?
I was about to ask you that too. I have no idea who like said. Like I'm sure it was like some movie or book that kind of just set the tone. And a good example of this is our roommate. He is, and you've seen this movie with him, 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yes.
He was showing me the trailers, trying to get me to watch, which I would love to watch one day. And I'm not going to recreate I'll try to recreate the song. It's like doom 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 dum dum boom 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 boom. I didn't know that song was from that movie, and I've always just associated space with that song, the new frontiers, and either it's space exploration or someone's exploring something, and they're in unknown territory, and here they come.
Yep.
I feel like in almost any movie growing up, that song would find its way in, and I always just associated that with space.
They used it in Ice Age. They used it in almost all the Ice Age trailers.
Yeah, I'm sure there are so many big movies and things that I've seen where that song's been there.
Yeah.
But I never knew that is because of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Right. I didn't know that. It was really cool for me. So I'm sure there is a movie or a comic book or something that kind of set that narrative to what aliens look like, and that's what we've kind of rolled with the last decade, half a century since. That
was a very good connection that you bridged with the two. So if we're looking at movies, Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters with the Third Kind, that is one of the more closer ones because it is that alien that you're very familiar with. But he has like 6 very, very long arms too. Mm-hmm. And like incredibly large, almost looks like a wingspan kind of thing. Then you also have like the very classic like black and white, everything from like Alien Invaders to Space Invaders to The Day the Earth Stood Still. I mean, there's all sorts of ones, and there's been constant recreations over time. Orson Welles' War of the Worlds, and then obviously Tom Cruise did a movie about that, but that also describes kind of what those aliens look like. But I am hard-pressed to find that one like drawing of it
Yeah.
that transcended all this time.
I'm sure. I actually. That's something I will definitely look up because I want to know because it's so iconic.
It is.
What is that radio? Is it Orson Welles' War of the Worlds where there was like a radio broadcast and people legitimately thought yes.
there were aliens invaded?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got to listen to that one of these days. That'd be so
I think
sick.
we did that in class once. I'd love to re-listen to it because then you have the perspective. I feel like I did this in like middle school, but you have this perspective now when you listen to it. Like, that's so silly.
That's so
what
fake.
how did they all believe that? But it's you kind of put yourself in those shoes. Where like, okay, I mean,
Yeah.
especially when there's like a narrative or a hysteria. You think of Cold War. All you could think about is nuclear bombs. So if you would have done a radio announcement saying Russia's launched a nuke, guarantee all of us would be. I don't know what I would do. I would just start crying. But like I believe it.
That is probably one of the most sinister, but one of the best pranks of all time.
Yeah.
And one of the first like modern day pranks
Yes.
kind of thing. Like the utter dupitry that happened with that is hilarious to me. But it's also like, yeah, I would have been scared for our lives.
Terrified.
Like, we've all been pranked, and it's like that was a really good one, but you scared me. You know, it would be one of those.
And that's all that you know. You don't have a phone to check, and you can't go. You can't scroll through Twitter for people to use that hashtag. World is ending. Is this true? And you don't have any of that. So all you have is the radio. That's crazy. What a time.
Yeah.
I guess though to answer your question, because I do like where we went with that. What do aliens look like? I'll answer it with a question, and then you and I can kind of brainstorm. If that works.
You're on. Let's
Okay.
do it. Yeah.
So I always picture. Let me backtrack. We have the capability of putting intelligence on Mars. So we've had rovers exploring Mars for the last 20, 30 years. We have a probe that is actually technically out of our solar system that we're still talking with, but I think that was launched in the 70s. That's the furthest capability that we have so far as a species to get out into outer space. If an alien race ever reached us, do you know how, it is just unimaginable how advanced they have to be to get to us. So for us right now, we haven't evolved too much as a species. Not saying we came from chimps, but we have adapted, and we're getting taller as each generation. We're getting smarter per each generation. Probably the biggest thing for us to get that has helped us get to where we are is our opposable thumbs in our brain.
Yes.
I'm trying to think, what adaptations would our body need to make? Whether it's a third, fourth arm or something like that. What adaptations would our body need to make to eventually be able to sustain interplanetary travel and beyond our solar system, perhaps even intergalactic travel? So what kind of adaptations would we need? And also, what would be advantageous for us to have maybe the brain power or the willpower to even engineer a technology to get us to that point? You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna assume our heads were gonna have to be pretty big to be so smart to compute some kind of beyond rocket science, some quantum physics or something to get ourselves beyond just interplanetary, but as I was saying, the intergalactic travel.
Yeah.
So I almost think
Interesting.
how whatever you and I think of what we would need to get to that point, maybe that's what an alien could look like.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Geez, that's might be one of the best questions we've had in the entirety of our podcast thus far. Not just this episode, but from day one. Wow. We could easily talk about this for hours.
Yeah, we could. We really could.
This maybe won't answer your question. Maybe this opens up another mystery.
This is just a fun conversation.
No, this might open up a whole other mystery box. Be right. This is fun. As you were talking, I was thinking to myself two things. If we ever did see the aliens, I don't think we would just, there's their spacecraft and there's them. We would probably get a probe. You talked about that. We sent out a probe.
Yeah.
And we have all this rovers. We might see a rover and be like, is that alien technology or is that them? the first encounter with them would probably be some sort of like technology thing, and just then pending doom of we've discovered this, brace yourselves, we destroyed the rover, now they can come at any time. I mean, that would be, talk about like fear inducing with the worlds. Oh my gosh, that, prepare yourselves, you know.
Yeah.
They hit us up.
We can't do anything.
They hit us up on Facebook Messenger. We're coming.
Only the people that have WhatsApp get it.
Right. But yeah.
Oh, you didn't hear? Oh.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. But no, it's the other thing I was thinking about too. As you were talking, I was like, well, the one thing we would just really need. What if we were just capable to breathe in space? What if we were capable that we didn't need these spacesuits, that we could just breathe on any planet? And then I was kind of getting in my head, I was like, what an interesting thing that, we believe in God, right? We believe that God is our Father and He created us. What an interesting thing that He equipped us with. You can only breathe on this planet.
Yeah.
Is that to keep you on this planet so we can keep...
Wow.
Let's say...
I like that question.
Let's say that God created other versions of mankind on other planets and whatever. There's the constant theory of, are we just a test trial? Was this a test tube? Was God just like, okay, we started with the dinosaurs. That was a failed experiment.
Sure.
This is his next experiment was us, right? Is it to keep his experiment segregated? And then when he wants to do intervention, he can then, what was it called? Not cross-mutate, but what's it when you take two science experiments and then you mesh them together?
What are you talking about?
Almost like when they pollinate?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Okay.
Cross-germinate or something.
Yes.
Okay.
Like, God would be the force to make that happen.
Sure.
Right? I find that interesting. Why that we can only breathe here. So, let's say we do get to Mars, and let's say there's another species there. Is our way of interacting always going to be through, like, a space suit?
Right.
Is that how we're supposed to meet them, or does that also push this idea that we're just as alien as them because we're not showing up in our raw forms? We're showing up looking terrifying. These mirrored masks and these giant. We look like we're broad, and we all look like Dwayne the Rock Johnson in those spacesuits, but in fact we're meek. It's very fascinating. So, what would we need? In order to become interplanetary, what would we need in order to meet that race if they don't come meet us? I think, while yes, we can breathe inside facilities on other planets. If we establish stuff on the moon or the ISS, like, we're in space but we can't breathe, but once we're inside, we can start breathing. I do think, though, it hinders us like crazy, that we can't. That we have to have these suits, and that one punctured hole can kill you.
You're done.
So you were saying, we need a fourth arm, or a third arm.
Yeah.
I think we need, better. We need to be able to breathe on other planets and take in different kind of toxins and gas. I think that we would need to be more immune to disease. Probably, I imagine. While people carry disease or animals carry disease, there has to be some sort of, bacteria on Mars. There has to be something that can somehow infiltrate us via weather or something on these other planets that would also then give us disease.
There's always those movies where it's a group of colonizers on Mars, and that one colonizer discovers this and is fascinated with it and ends up getting a disease, and then they become zombies, and then everyone everyone dies.
It goes from crew member to crew member. Yep.
So yeah, it's a good. I'm sure there is.
Yeah, has to be. So there's that. If I could just go to a third one, because I'm curious to see if there's any you can think of. Posable thumbs, people really do underestimate.
Yeah.
I mean, you were talking about that. And I think that's amazing. I think if we had posable thumbs for our feet, I know it sounds silly, like, so you can be a bat and you can hang from a bar and sleep upside down, or a monkey, right? But there are things monkeys can do that's awesome. That like we can, and I think that. Whether it be in the ISS as you're floating in space and you can only grip on... Actually, I take this back. Let's get away from the International Space Station. You ever seen the movie Gravity with Sandra Bullock? So it was on Netflix. Actually, no, it wasn't just on Netflix. It was just a normal movie.
Yeah.
I guess I watched it on Netflix.
Is Matt Damon in it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It's interesting. It focuses on like how scary space is and how like you might have to jump from one platform to another in space because you're trying to fix something on like the space station.
Yeah.
And you leap and you might have made a miscalculation in your jump and you were maybe off by like a foot and you can't grab the bar and you just go out and you drift in space.
Drift into space.
And maybe if you had a posable thumb on your feet, you'd be able to, maybe you could have kicked out your leg and grappled because your legs are longer than your arms. So I think that's crazy. So maybe that was the extra foot you needed to latch on.
Mm-hmm.
It's very possible.
That's a good question. Well, that too is like with the ISS. I was watching this. I don't remember. Was it? No, it was a documentary. It was actually about. It was Elon Musk and SpaceX, and it was this guy who was on his rotation in the ISS. The Crew Dragon that SpaceX had sent him off. It was the first ever, private company to send someone off to space into the ISS.
That's so cool.
So now they're doing the trips. But anyway, the ISS is a pretty relatively old piece of spacecraft, if you will. And so you have to do maintenance all the time. And that is one of the most stressful jobs ever. You have to be so careful and so delicate because you are going outside of the ISS and you are doing these little shifts, little adjustments. Obviously, you're strapped and everything, but one slip and all of a sudden you're off into the orbit of Earth and then into space. So that kind of reminded me of that. That is terrifying. I would almost say an adaptation is. This could be philosophical, but we are social creatures. I think some people are more social than others. But I think even the world's biggest introvert who says, hey, I could go on my own for 6 months. At some point, you have to talk to people. You need to talk to people. And I unfortunately feel like some of our very first missions beyond Mars and etc. to save weight and whatever the other case may be, a lot of these missions are probably going to be solo man missions. That's terrifying. To me, that is terrifying to think about how brave you would have to be to do that. There would have to be some type of adaptation. We are only so strong mentally to be able to withstand that until you go insane. So it's almost like we would almost have to break that social need as creatures and kind of adapt, which is really crazy to think about. Kind of like a lone wolf gene that you would have to insert into someone's DNA to be able to withstand those travels. I think the radiation seen out in space is beyond just the inability to breathe. We would have to be able to withstand those type of radiation beams or whatever beams, but the radiation that you see out there from the sun and other stars. So that would be something we'd also have to adapt to too. But that's the cool thing too about space travel. If we learn how to adapt to that, maybe we could learn how to fight cancer here on Earth, kind of thing.
There you go. Yeah.
So
it's interesting. If you were to extract the social element from humans, so they could go man a mission like that by themselves. You extract the need to. I think you and I are also very good at being independent. Like you said, we are social creatures, both as a human species, but also you and me. We can be social, but we're also very good on our own to being independent.
Absolutely.
But it would take even more than that to have the independence to not need to be social whatsoever. Yeah. It's you and your AI system that you're talking to, or how we talk to our cars.
Exactly.
Same thing.
I could probably go a whole day in my room, but I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't text my mom or text you or something like that. I have to have something. Even if I'm technically by myself all day, there's some level of socialization that you're doing.
Yeah, you would need to extract the notion and the benefit that dopamine gives you from a human species.
You need it.
And the social element in order to make these one-man missions to Mars or whatever work, because obviously it's a lot of space-time travel to get there. So, maybe we send robots, because that's when you extract the social element, you extract the need, the codependence, and thing like that, or reliance on things. That would work. But then if you send a robot, I always wonder, like, would they ever come back? There's nothing that like, it's not a video game where you jump off a cliff and it automatically respawns you, where you go outside the boundary and then your character automatically turns around back into the place you're supposed to go.
I think that's a good point.
You can't. You could say, okay, BD756, it's time to come back home.
Yeah.
BD756 don't give a frick.
He don't.
So maybe or she.
Yeah.
So maybe it's that might not work.
That's true too. I mean, that's a fantastic point. It would make much more sense to send a robot. So in that case too, maybe our first alien contact isn't really with the species itself, but it's almost like an ambassador of that planet. It would. I mean, the president of the United States doesn't always go to every country. What do we do as a country? We send an ambassador of us, an extension of us, to whatever country to resolve whatever conflict.
Yeah. So,
I mean, that would definitely make more sense if we could engineer some type of robot. And that would probably be honestly the more realistic alien contact. That's a fantastic point to me.
Yeah, probably would. Like, and this kind of maybe goes back to what we were saying earlier of when we send out satellites, and if that's the first thing the aliens see of us.
Mm-hmm.
But if they were to come down here, it would probably be a satellite or a rover of theirs. That's our first contact with the alien as well, whether it's actually directly through them or not.
Yeah.
Another thing I was thinking about as you were talking is, I think you would also have to enhance, not just like being like cognitive, but what's what I'm looking for? Your attention span.
Mm-hmm.
With these missions to be able to do all these things, I think that would be needed for sure.
Sleep.
You're saying like extract how much you need it?
Yeah.
Like even less? Okay.
I feel like that would probably be pretty important.
And how about like adaptability to temperatures too?
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's hot down here. I can only imagine I think people assume that like space is really cold.
Yeah.
And I get that because it looks cold. It's a vacuum. It's a bunch of nothing.
It's nothing.
But if it's hot here, layers deep into the atmosphere, all these things shielding us from the sun, it has to be way, way hotter up there when you're actually directly a few planets outshore, but you are near the sun.
Right. It's interesting. I would say from our perspective, like the moon itself, well, that's not a good example. We're the third rock from the sun, so planets 1 and 2 are absolutely way hotter. I think what Earth, why it feels so hot here, and it's all relative too, because 90 degrees, boy, is that hot.
Right.
But that is a fraction of a fraction of a fraction that can keep going of what the sun's heat is. But we have an atmosphere, which is fascinating, because I think that does a really good job of kind of trapping the sun's heat. And obviously allowing us to have a climate and it being livable. But planets 1 and 2 obviously are going to be really, 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 really hot.
Really hot.
I do think the air around Earth is, I don't know, I'd actually have to look this up, but my assumption is it's really, really cold, because like if you move, this is crazy, but like when you're in a plane sometimes, obviously you're 30,000, you're actually in a couple different stratosphere levels different than what we're living in. Sometimes you can see ice building up on the wing, which is crazy to think about.
That's so cool.
So I'd be curious to see what that temperature is, but regardless, temperatures are changing all the time. You have to be resilient to that if you want to be able to adapt to it. So it's like, does your skin have to be like made out of silver? Or, like, I don't know. That would be fascinating.
Absolutely, yeah. What do you think is hotter? Mars, which is a planet away from the sun. Actually, let me take this back. Let me walk this back as hypothetical. What do you think is hotter? Working on the ISS, and the sun is obviously visible, like, right? Maybe you're hiding a little bit behind the Earth, so not direct in contact to the sun, but the sun's near you. You obviously can't look at the sun directly when you're up there. Or being in like South America, you're near the equator, and you also have not just the sun beating on you, but the Earth's core is really hot too. What do you think's hotter?
South America is my guess.
That's a good guess. Yeah, I'm trying to think. 'Cause like, is all the space things I've seen, I don't know in the movies they ever touched on, like just how hot it is up there.
Or
Like the ISS is a lot of like what, metal? You know, like you touch your seatbelt in the summer, and the little part of the seatbelt that clicks in, like, ow!
It hurts. Yeah.
I can only imagine what it's like working on this giant metal facility up there.
I mean, it's interesting too. I don't know. Obviously, we have that contrast of being in the summer and you touch your seatbelt. But I guess technically, also, if you're in Antarctica and the sun is beating on your seatbelt, it's gonna be really, really, really cold.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know what it would be up there. Would it be hotter, or is the sun kind of, since it doesn't have like a climate that's kind of capturing its heat, it's kind of just, it's not really, you never have the time to really absorb the heat.
That's true. That's a good point.
Also think about this, when you're in the ISS, imagine all the sunrises that you get to see. I believe you would rotate the Earth like 13 times a day.
That's incredible.
You know how many sunsets and sunrises you get to see? Like that is
too cool.
That is such a cool, I cannot imagine being there, just looking at Earth and just, wow. I think one of the most iconic pictures of all time is from one of those probes that I was talking about, and it's looking back at Earth, and you don't know what you're looking at until someone points it out. There's this little tiny speck, just this tiny speck that's blue. And I think the picture, we'll have to look it up, but the picture's called like the blue speck.
Wow.
And it's this probe looking back on where it was created and where it was sent from, and it's Earth, but it's just so tiny. It's so crazy. Sometimes it's like, it's a good reminder for myself, because it's like the world that I'm living in and the world that we're living in feels so big, and everything feels so important, and it is, but it's, when you think about we're just on a speck, sometimes it just puts you in a different perspective of, you know what, no, it's okay. You know what, like it's like a roommate jumping out of a plane and seeing Earth from a different lens.
I was just thinking about that.
It's the big and scary things don't feel that big and scary anymore, because you just know you're just on a little tiny piece of human history, and then you're probably even on a smaller piece of the universe's history too.
Right.
It's crazy to think about.
Yeah, it really is.
The little blue speck.
Little blue speck reminds me of the Horton Hears a Who from Dr. Seuss, and
that's their world.
I wonder if that's how he got it. You know, just it's like, yeah, there's so much stuff going on in this little speck, but then there's also the outside surrounding world of it all, and you know, I just wondered, like, why does all that stuff exist? Is it, you know, I know it's like, well, dude, that's the question, but it's like, what's the point of all of that out there? Is it simply so it's infinite levels? Is this Minecraft where you load into a world and it's just infinitely expanding, or are they not meant to be found? And are you meant to just be this speck? And the purposes not of which we can even comprehend. So
I think that's a really important piece of being human.
Yeah.
It's just wondering and being in awe of what's beyond us, I think.
Yeah.
That's a really, really cool thing. And then the fascinating thing too is your grandpa's, I can keep going, grandma's, whatever. They probably talked about this very same thing.
They probably did.
To some respect. And here we are, 100+ times generations after them talking about the very same thing. Like, I think that's really cool too.
It is really cool. It's that same concept of, if I sip Coca-Cola, it's the exact same Coca-Cola that Tom Cruise is sipping.
Yeah.
It's like, sometimes when it comes to a drink like that, like that's the best that there is. And I can enjoy that same thing. There's not a higher tiered version of it. So the same person who was cut from different cloth with money and popularity and all that, we're both enjoying the same thing.
We all look
really cool.
We all look at the same moon.
Exactly.
It's yeah. I mean, I get to
We have more in common than I think a lot of people give us credit for.
yeah, and that's the beauty. I mean, we're looking at the same thing, the same stars that MLK, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Galileo, Copernicus, Copernicus. There it
There
is.
it is. There it is.
Christopher Columbus, Marcus Aurelius, Jesus,
George Lucas.
George Lucas. Looked at like that's
Yeah.
yeah. It puts it all in perspective too. It's cool. It's fascinating.
Yeah. It's
Only two guys got to walk on it.
right.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that is pretty nuts. Or did they?
Or did they?
But that might have to be for another podcast
Couple conspiracy.
episode.
We'd have to dive into conspiracy one of these.
All right. Well, dude, this was a great conversation,
Yeah,
man.
it was.
I'm looking forward to seeing what we talk about next week. Maybe it will be some conspiracy theories.
I'm gonna have to do some research.
Me too.